Oh, hi there. This is Fraley's World Insight Vlogs once again for a Monday, 7 6 20, and I've got here 11:10. So I'll try to get this done before midnight so I can put it out on the Facebook waves, I guess you'd say, Facebook sphere, or whatever you want to call it. And I'll probably have it out maybe tonight, and I know I will by tomorrow or in the morning for sure. But anyway, I had a few things I wanted to talk about tonight, and we just got through the 4th of July, another year. A lot different this year, a year like I've never had in my entire life. A lot of things have been going on. Coronavirus, Black Lives Matter movement, uh, you name it, it's all hit me this year. Tragedies in my own, or tragic sickness in my own family. Uh, so it really had it hit me hard this year. But so I'm here doing another broadcast, and I wanted to start off kind of mentioning George Washington, who is probably are known as our father of our country, of course, and our probably greatest leader, although some may not look at it that way now, with all these brainwashed, liberal minded turds they got in leadership positions now. And this includes politics, education, and I'm talking especially about higher education, but there are some in the lower scale too that don't know what they're doing. They're all brainwashed by the same ideology, and we, the rest of us, have to suffer because of it, and they influence others who become brainwashed as well, and it just makes for a mess, and that's why it could be possibly a civil war, especially coming up now that the election's coming up in November. 100 and something days from now. You can do the math on that if you want to. It's in November anyway. It's not that far off, and I predict some really harsh events that November the 4th, or the day of the election, or the night of the election. Well, probably the night of the election. It's going to be some disappointed people, and it could be either side. It could be Republican or it could be Democrat. Of course, I lean toward the Republican side, even though I'm independent. And I hope its microphone's working good. So I'm going to turn this sound down just a little bit. I'm going to turn it down right there so I don't get any blowback. And I'm going to try not to put my voice too close to the microphone because it causes some static or some bad sound anyway. You can't hardly understand it. But anyway, on with what I'm going to talk about. We're going to watch a little clip here by George Washington first. It lasts about 6 minutes or so, and it talks about basically George Washington's warning Americans about the reliance too much on one party, giving one party too much power, and we've given Democrats too much power, and they're actually trying to take over, and you know what it is too. I'm not trying to be Joe Biden here. You know the deal. You know what's. No, it's Marxism, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here in a minute. But first, listen to the warning from George Washington. This little video that I've arranged. I'll put it full screen over here so you can see it better. But anyway, here's a warning about third parties from George Washington and giving them too much power. Wait a minute, I gotta get over here. Here we go.
Hello everyone, this is John Cashin recording from my blog John Cashin's Musings. Today, I will be discussing George Washington's farewell address from September 17, 1796. In it, Washington gives his opinion and thoughts of the idea of having political parties, and also his warnings of how they could be used to subvert the political process. With all the fighting between the political parties, many people are defined by which party they belong and the issues that they stand for. Partisan attacks and polarization have become the norm, and the division in the nation is clearly growing to an alarming level. Whether you are liberal or conservative minded, it is the issues that divide us and sets us into one camp or the other. And in order to allow all citizens of the United States to have their voices heard, a big picture view is needed to find a direction that we want our country to move for the future. By only focusing on issues, it makes it easy for us to forget the most important fact that we are all American citizens, which have many differing ideas, and this fact will remain no matter what issues we decide are the most important to each of us. George Washington may have been onto something when he said in his farewell address in 1796, "The unity of government, which constitutes you one people, is also now dear to you. It is justly so, for it is a main pillar in the edifice of your real independence, the support of your tranquillity at home, your peace abroad, of your safety, of your prosperity, of that very liberty which you so highly prize." Washington was highlighting what was created, and the pride that came from forming a federal government that guaranteed the wishes for independence, tranquility at home, protections from foreign intervention, and the prosperity for its citizens. There are those that only seek to gain the power of one party over the other, no matter if they are liberal, conservative, independent, or libertarian, and they use the most volatile issues to create a constant division in the country, which helps gather votes to one party or the other. Washington also had something to say about this as well. But as it is easy to foresee that, from different causes and from different quarters, much pains will be taken, many artifices employed to weaken in your minds the conviction of this truth, and this is the point in your political fortress against which the batteries of internal and external enemies will be most constantly and actively, though often covertly and insidiously, directed. It is of infinite moment that you should properly estimate the immense value of your national union to your collective and individual happiness, that you should cherish a cordial, habitual, and immovable attachment to it, accustoming yourselves to think and speak of it as the palladium of your political safety and prosperity, watching for its preservation with jealous anxiety, discountenancing whatever may suggest even a suspicion that it can in any event be abandoned, and indignantly frowning upon the first dawning of every attempt to alienate any portion of our country from the rest, or to enfeeble the sacred ties which now link together the various parts. He goes on to say, "Without looking forward to an extremity of this kind, which nevertheless ought not to be entirely out of sight, the common and continual mischiefs of the spirit of party are sufficient to make it the interest and duty of a wise people to discourage and restrain it. It serves always to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the door to foreign influence and corruption, which finds a facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. Thus the policy and the will of one country are subjected to the policy and will of another. There are many issues that are dear to each of us, but our beliefs may not have the same force of reason to another group of citizens, and it is crucial to find a way to stand above those issues, to be able to reach all Americans for a peaceful compromise. The issues are being used to create a wedge in the electorate that some are exploiting to divide our nation for their own purposes, and this is one of the reasons that George Washington discouraged the idea of having parties. Whether one agrees with George Washington's view on having political parties or not, it is easy to see that some of his warnings have merit. There are many that believe ceasing the hostilities erupting across the nation today is a worthy cause, and by seeking out and exposing the methods employed by those that seek only to divide us for personal gain, we may learn to find ways to bring our divided nation together again.
Okay. Alright, we're back to scene one, and that's me. And we don't need this other mess over here, so I'm going to get rid of that. Anyway, we're off George Washington now. And I want to continue. Again, there's a lot of political turmoil at the present time, and especially now that it's closing in on the election, and we want to re-elect Donald Trump, or else it's either Trump or in the dump, if you know what I'm saying. And that's pretty much what they're trying to do right now. Right now, not only is coronavirus going on, but then they started this dang Black Lives Matter movement. This is a selfish group who want to more or less reverse history, and they don't realize what they're doing. They're just causing it. They're standing up for a movement and a cause because they feel like the white person has the or what's the word they use? The white person has more power. The white person has privilege. That's the word they use, privilege. I had a Joe Biden moment. I'm not quite Joe Biden yet. I got a few years to go. I'm not 107 yet, but I'm getting there. Well, I ain't quite that old, but anyway, Black Lives Matter movement is a very selfish organization which is out to divide the country because they feel like they have a cause, and it's white privilege. They can't handle it. And actually, the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement were actually trained Marxists. Now, you don't have to take my word on it. And I've got that on here somewhere too, if I can find it, and I'll show it to you. They admitted that they were actually trained Marxists. And I've got it. I'm scrolling for it now, if I can find it. As you can see at the bottom of the page, I'm trying to scrolling for it, if I can find it here. Okay. Let's see. If I can't find it. I wrote something about it here. Oh, here it is. I'll show this to you. And we'll go to scene 2. The Black Lives Matter movement. I'll read you some of this. This was from the New American. It's an article on the internet. One of its the New American, that freedom shall not perish. and this was written on Tuesday the 23rd, June 2020. It says, Black Lives Matter co-founder admits we are trained Marxists. And this is off of the Real News Network, an interview that one of the founders of this Black Lives Matter movement did. And let's see, let's go to the this person's name is Colliers, and she responded to that BLM does not have an ideology, that is, and it's Marxism. She says, the first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. She said, myself and fellow BLM co-founder Alicia Garza in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories. And she said that they are not actually the only vanguards of the movement. She says she tried to put out a political frame that it's centering, and we think that most vulnerable among us are the black community, and they've really had to fight all of their lives. But this is nonsense. I mean, sure, our history is filled with episodes of corruption, cruelty, slavery, and a lot of our forefathers, like Jefferson, probably even Washington. Not so much Grant, but his wife, I believe, owned slaves, and other people throughout our history. I'm not sure if Lincoln's wife owned slaves or not, or if he did. I'm not sure on that one, but the Jefferson, Adams, and some of the other early political leaders, great philosophers and writers and thinkers of the time, thought about reason. And while I believe that back then, if you lived in that time period, that sort of thing was thought of as normal, and it wasn't true. It was looked down upon, but they more or less were repentant of their own evil ways, or they had to live through that era, that attitude, that sphere of influence. So naturally, they're going to live in that manner, more or less. Just like today, we live in a certain manner because of our sphere of influence. And we more or less work to improve all the time. And that's what they were doing. They improved this country by writing up a document, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and giving us the rights guaranteed based upon principles right out of the Bible. And they realized it on their own because they too were looking for freedom, and they got their freedom by well, it was a struggle, it was a rebellion, but it was for the right cause and the right reason, liberty and pursuit of happiness. I'm sorry, but my throat's dry. But anyway, I think you get what I'm trying to say. And our Constitution, and it, again, is written based off principles out of the Bible, and it constantly evolves and gets better, just like our history. You know, we've had bad episodes in our history, and we're not proud of what we did. But if you think about it, during the Civil War, 1861, to 1865, 600,000 men died just so that there was so the not just black men getting their freedom, but a lot of other things as well. I mean, there were other things that it dealt with, taxation, and other things for the South, but basically the black men did get it, or black people did get their freedom. But 600,000 men had to die, and people don't realize it. But if you look down some of the rolls, obituaries, and stuff from then, a great percentage of the people that fought in that war were of Irish descent, and other people actually paid them to take their place, would actually pay them money to take their place in the conscriptions or drafts, whatever you want to call it. And that's a little known fact that people don't, or if you studied history, you know about it, but if you haven't really studied in-depth history, you don't realize a great percentage of those people were of Irish descent, and most of them were, and they died. There was 600,000 people died in that battle on both sides, of course, but they made a great sacrifice so that black people could have their freedom. But people don't want to hear that. And the Civil War, and sure, there's monuments, statues on both sides, but they want to tear that down, more or less erase history, because all the more they shouldn't be ashamed of their past. I mean, we've had bad episodes, but again, the Constitution was written and it's evolved through time, just like our history, and we've gotten better. And though it's not perfect, it's never been perfect. It's probably the most perfect. It's probably the best system in the world, but people don't look at it that way. But it's come a long ways to where it is now. But now people want to reverse the tide, take away the history. They want to, by stirring up this movement, which I don't believe it's really all black people involved. I believe it's Marxists that is helping to stir this up, and the Black Lives Matter movement is Marxist. Probably you got your Antifa in there as well, anti-fascist groups, all spearheaded by people like George Soros, who funds these people. And but anyway, my basic gist is that through time we have gotten better, but now people are trying to retard our growth, and they basically here lately have retarded our growth. They call it white privilege, and they're actually racist against us. I've heard some of those people talk on TV, some of the Black Lives Matter people, and they hate all white people. They want to take white people out of power. And what's crazy is some people are actually bowing down to that because they had it so bad. Well, hell, they've just like everybody else. There's always been slavery in the world. It's not just blacks. Heck, they sold their own people into slavery. The black people, or the Africans did. In Africa, they sold their own people into slavery. What are you talking about? Not just their group. There were indentured servants who were just like slaves. Actually had it worse than slaves because they could get killed. And there were actually, there were black people, free black men in it, or black people in this country that actually owned slaves. That little known thing, but I can find that too, I think. I've got that on here somewhere. If I can find that. Let me find that real fast. It's on here. I got it up here somewhere. Let me find that, and I'll switch you over here to it. Let you look at it. if I can find it. Do. Here it is. This guy, I'll get you over here in scene 2 and let you look at it. This guy's name was Anthony Johnson, and I got this off Facebook, by the way, but you can Google it if you want to check the facts to make sure that it's correct. But it's an article, and I'll give you the gist of it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I got other things I've got written down I want to get in that won't last so long. But Anthony Johnson, was a black slave owner during that time, in the 1800s. He says so black Africans sold other black Africans as slaves all over the world and in America. Free blacks owned over 10,000 black slaves. So why do we never hear about this in the media? In almost every state, including South Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and Louisiana, free blacks owned as many as 10,000 slaves. And this was even before the Civil War in 1850. So that's just something to think about. And you never hear about it on the media because, oh well, they keep all that stuff covered up. They don't want to see the real side of things. They only want to see their one-sided thing, and they want the negative, of course. But anyway, let's give you a little bit of my feelings about it. I think we're, as a nation, have come a long ways toward the way we've dealt with racism and discrimination, and we've desegregated things. But the route they're going now with this more or less rebellion, this BLM movement, is kind of they're segregating themselves again. So they're more or less the racists. Instead of evolving and improving and getting better, they're actually taking a step back. They're like evolution, where instead of an animal improving and getting better traits, they're instead of evolving, they're devolving. The whole racist movement is taking a step backward and more or less retarding the growth of the country and the feelings that people have about racism and stuff. It's sad, but that's what they're doing. They're causing another race war, and I honestly believe it's because of these other groups. Again, BLM is a Marxist group. They admit to it. They admit to having Marxist training, and their leaders and their founders are organized and trained in Marxism. So that's just something to think about. And now we got them wanting to remove all these great memorials like of Jefferson, even Abraham Lincoln. Now, why in the world would they want to remove Abraham Lincoln's statue when he's the very one that gave them the Emancipation Proclamation? Why? It don't make any dang sense. Simply because they want to erase history. They want to erase that part of history out of the scene, and you can't do that. I mean, we have to have history to remind us of our successes and failures in life so that we can improve. Instead of taking a step back, which they're trying to make us do, we need to be stepping forward and improving our relations with each other. And that don't just include black people. That includes all people. All people's lives matter. And I'm freckled, and I've had people make fun of me being freckled, and that didn't really bother. It bothered me a little bit when I was younger, but I didn't really let it bother me that much. It don't bother me now. Oh, I could care less now, but freckled freckled lives matter too. I care about my life. But anyway, monument movement. But Trump did passed an executive order. I believe it was Friday, and said that anybody caught trying to vandalize or damage or destroy property or statues, monuments would be dealt with seriously serve some serious time, starting at 10 years. So I hope the heck any of you out there thinking about that and you think that's protesting, it's guaranteed. Well, that's not protesting, that's destroying public property. My property that my taxes pay for, your property that your taxes pay for. And so I hope you get what's coming to you if you're in that sphere of influence. But anyway, another thing that Trump did, and he did this Saturday night because I watched it, he made another speech, and he said that he was making a garden. What was the word? I read about it. A garden, a memorial. He's going to open up a big memorial, kind of like a memorial garden to all our great heroes. And he made a big long list, and you can Google that. But of course, it included all our great leaders like Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson. It even had people like Harriet Tubman, who we all know who she is in history. It included other black people as well, people who helped strive for freedom for black people and slaves and freedom, like Harriet Tubman and others. Frederick Douglass, of course, but there were other. Amelia Earhart, first really woman pilot that got lost in the ocean somewhere. So who knows what happened to her. But anyway, a lot of other people like that as well. But anyway, this memorial garden is supposed to open up in 2026 and on July the 4th, and that's going to take a while to build, but I hope it's a really big place. And I hope they put it in the Midwest. As a matter of fact, well, what's a better place to put it than right close to Mount Rushmore or in that general area, So a person, or it could be a big tourist attraction, and the proceeds could even go to all the natives of that area, or all the Indians of that area, native Indians of that area, to help better their lives. They could use it as a great tourist attraction and make money, support the public, and support the not just the upkeep and keep our memories intact, keep our history intact, which we have to do. We can't go tearing down our history and try to erase our past, or try to reverse our history and try to go back when we made. Why take a step back when we take a step forward? We've taken great strides to improve and get where we're at, but now it seems like they're really they don't think about that. They only think about everybody always wants everything at once, instead of taking their time and moving towards something and building on it, building relationships, building the groundwork, the roots. And why destroy what you've worked so hard for and it took a long time to build, and then you want to tear it down? That's nuts. That's what Marxism wants to do. And but anyway, I thought I'd come on And I don't want to stay on here too long. I don't want to get too bloviated. Opined, as Bill O'Reilly said. Bill O'Reilly always said that's my opine. I opined on several major issues in the news today, and I opined. That's a fancy word. I like that word. I honestly like words. I used to study etymology a little bit, along with my history and foreign languages and other things. And but I don't want to bloviate too much. There's another good word. One of the words I learned, I actually learned opine from Bill O'Reilly, but I learned bloviate from other books. I used to carry around books and just sit and study words. I'd read words and memorize words and stuff because I wanted a better vocabulary. But anyway, that's about all I'm going to say tonight. But why should we destroy what we've already built ourselves up to and reverse it and take a step back? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you must be a Democrat. They're not Democrats. They're not worthy of being Democrat. They're Democrats because they want to destroy what we've created and what it took our history to create and years. And I hope you understood what I was saying tonight. If you did, you're probably more conservative leanings. And anyway, I'm going to get off from here, quit bloviating, and that's my opine for tonight. So it's Fraley's World Insight Blogs, and I'm signing off till the next